All right, here we go again with something very different, but also kind of the same, if that makes any sense. So this is my final project for mobile development, and you can see it's not very Moby related, but there's a reason for that, and that is because that we could do whatever we want, basically. As I mentioned in the past, our teacher's philosophy for that class is that our final shouldn't be worth a ton of points, and if it's not worth a ton of points, may as well do something kind of fun with it. And so I did. And I'm actually going to pause for a second here. All right, we're back. I just forgot to set up the Android version of this. So I guess I probably need to explain just what this is in general. So this is a program called Ren'Py, which lets you make visual novels. And I guess if you don't know what a visual novel is, think of it as the game version of a choose your own adventure book. There's a lot more intricacies because, it still is a game, so you can do lots of stuff with it, but it's, typically story based, and you'll see what one is in a moment. But yeah, so we could do whatever we wanted, and the way it worked was first final, we had a week to do it, worth only 5%, and then our second final, same deal, 1 week, 5%, and we could pick to either do something completely different or to do like an advancement on this, on our first one, and I did an advancement on the first one, so that's what I'm showing here. I'm showing the advanced version on it. It doesn't make really make any sense to do two separate videos on it. And I still have a repo with the first version, so I'll put both of those in the description. So here's what the menu looks like when you start it up. Obviously, all these aren't going to be here. These two are. These are the defaults. But yeah, you can just make a new project. Here's all the stuff you can do. You have to set up a text editor. There's one, I forget what it's called now, but it's defunct that I originally used with this. And that was when I just didn't even know what I was doing, like when I basically just tried it out for the sake of trying this out. So I have used it before, but only like a tiny bit before this project, and that's why these are here. And like I said, there's an old text editor with it that is defunct, so I just ended up using VS Code, which is with an extension is actually pretty good for doing this kind of stuff. So I guess I'll show that next. I'll show it running. I just want to save it for the end. So here's kind of what you get when you have a project. So you won't have this scripts folder, and you won't have these two things. We'll get to those in a second, but you'll have all these other folders. So what you do is basically just for any of your resources, for some of them, for example, for images, it'll automatically look for images in that folder, but for audio, it won't. So some stuff is pretty easy to work with, some stuff isn't. And then the kind of more interesting stuff that you get is GUI. So this is how you change the UI. There's as you can see, a bunch of stuff in here, and it goes along pretty well with options, which is how you also change more general stuff like font, for example. I have the font changed in here. There's this stuff as well, which when you build it is basically what you're hiding. You don't have to include scripts at all, since this reads off of the compiled version of the scripts, which you need to decompile them to look at in plain text. And the rest of the stuff you can archive so that people can't see it. And I just going through this really quickly, I actually don't think the text font is in here or in that one. It's in here somewhere. Yeah, here. Uh, so that's you can change the font, so you can change like the character name. There's three different ones for a reason. Of course, you have your colors and a bunch of different stuff. I didn't change everything, but like I showed, I did change some things. Keep in mind, I basically had a week to get the entire thing done, and then I didn't know at the time, or I wasn't sure at the time that I'd be advancing on it. So And then options is just more general stuff. See the name of the product. It's more project options, and this is GUI options basically. And then screens is just how each menu looks. So everything's a screen. So here you can see a scroll bar, frame, uh, screen. This is the no the say screen. That's what shows dialogue on the screen. So you have a who and you have a what. So who is who's saying it, what is what's being said. And I haven't messed too much with this either because it's a lot to mess with. But I have made some changes. And then script is just the first script file. So this is where Ren'Py starts. So I just jumped to my file, which is in the scripts folder. And it jumps using labels. So I believe it looks in any directory lower. So you don't have to specify where label is. So, and every script file has to have at least one label. And as you can see, it can have multiple. So here's just what it looks like. Oh, and wait, another thing. Uh, Variables are global for the most part. So I just have a separate file for variables in this. And then also this is for achievements, which I will get to um, closer to the end. And I actually didn't have to do this. There's a built-in way to make it so basically an achievement with progress. I have these. So when you say you just check a stick and you want to, the achievement is to check everything. That's what this is. This stuff is to prevent you just checking that same object over and over again. But there's a built-in way to do that. I just didn't know that at the time, so that's why I have all these if statements. And they're global, or not global, they're persistent, which means that they exist between save files. So going up here, room one. Actually, it might be easier if I show kind of how this works. So here's the title screen. I changed the background image. So this might be a little. Actually, no, I probably haven't muted. Let's keep it quiet. So see, this is room one, and you can rotate in different directions. Not actually rotating, but it's kind of a good way to explain the physical space of the room when all you have to work with is images and text. So this is a choice menu. So think of it as a visual if statement, if you will. So pick an option, something happens. So going back to the code, so here rotate, it just changes between these files, which has different backgrounds, different text that can be read, and you use it with the menu. And since this is Python, I don't know proper Python yet. That's kind of what I'm working on next. You can rotate, or since it's Python, it's based on indent. So this is inside menu because it's one indent in, and this jump is in this option because it's another indent in. And the way you put text in here is, as you can see, pretty simple. You just put a string of text and it understands what you want to do. So you want to write text. If you want a specific character to say text, so I go into a variable. This is how you define a character. So the what is their text. We kind of mentioned that earlier, where the what is what they're saying. So that's how you specify that you want the text to be italic and not their character name. And same with the color, and you can also specify an actual name. For what I was working with, characters didn't have any name in the text box, but you can do it like this. Also, just give me a second. Someone was at the door. Anyway, right, I was talking about the characters. So you could have just a string in here. The order doesn't matter, I don't think. You can just have a string, like, I'll just show an example. Just hello. That's just the name of the character. So that'll appear whenever that character is talking, and the way a character talks. Let me just fix that. Go back here. A way a character talks is you just put the variable name. So in this case, thinking. you just put it right before the text, and I should have an example, yeah, here. So thinking, it just goes right before the text, and then just denoted with a space. And this $sign here, that's how you call variables in just in here. You have to do that every time, other than when you're defining them. Oh wait, do let me define it. Let me just no, you use default to make a variable, and then you use the $sign to call it with no matter what you're doing. And these are for the achievements which I added specifically on the second version. That's kind of how I was advancing. I used someone else's code that they they allowed people to use it. Their name's probably here. Yeah, by Phoenix Dev. They just posted on a website called itch.io. That's a lot of people do that for this, for Ren'Py. And so that was cool. I kind of wanted to show how that's, I guess the ecosystem, I suppose would be the word, of Ren'Py, and how people share that stuff typically in this case at least, but typically just for attribution, just say, hey, this code is this person's, and they're happy with it. But yeah, so that, it's pretty simple to do the text stuff. Here you can see this is zoom, so you can do transforms, that's the word I'm looking for, to images. So scene is specifically background image. You can do transforms by basically doing another indent like that. Make sure you have the colon, and then you basically build together like a half sentence, like a kind of a caveman speaking with these words. So you can do scene, room 2, which is the image name, with dissolve. And like I mentioned, images, they are, it knows where to look, so you don't have to do like a string, or surrounded by quotes rather, string, and put in the file name. You just do scene, and then the file name with the spaces, but without the extension. And then so it dissolves in, you add this with, and then the transform. So in this case, dissolve. There's a bunch built in. And music, talk about the music, which music is similar, except for you have to specify the file. So here, play the word music. This is the channel. So there's 3 different built-in channels. You can do a bunch more, like you can make more, but there's music, voice, and sound. So there can be one thing playing on each of them at once, so they'll all overlap. But if you put another thing on music, it would be in place of what's currently playing. And then there's other transforms with this. Music transforms, obviously, so fade in. And then this is in seconds, so fade in for 0.5 seconds before it's at full volume. And what else do I want to talk about? Oh, I know I want to talk about the achievements, but before we get to that, I guess I'll kind of already went over it, but labels. Labels are pretty simple. It's basically, hey, this is all the stuff, like all the code is in the label. And then if I ever want to go back to that label, I just do jump, and then in this case, reform menu. So this is the main one, but you can nest as many as you want. So if I ever want to go back to this, it'll start here, it'll make the scene with the room, and then I'll show the menu. And so every time I want to start back from that point, you use the jump, which here is at the bottom, jump room format. And then, yeah, I think I wanted to talk about the another thing, inline transforms, I guess, not transform, but inline changing of text. So you have double curly brackets and then B, which is bold, and then close. So like an HTML tag, or a CSS tag rather, that's kind of what I was thinking. where you can just I showed that I want a character to always be talking in italics, but say in this case you can see here I just want this one line of text to be bold. I use the tag, which start here, close it with the slash version of it, and that's probably it now. There's the basically all of the stuff you would expect in Python. So your if statements, I use a while loop elsewhere. Pretty simple in that aspect. That wasn't very simple because I didn't know Python when I did this, but programming, and it's just syntax stuff that's pretty much different. And now achievements. So achievements was I still had to change stuff for it. So and I was looking through someone else's code, so it was like a learning from them basically. So I'll show this. This is the back end which I did, which is like the more code aspect, I guess, the how the achievements are made, but it also has stuff with Steam backend. That's a whole rabbit hole. Right here you can see I went through it, so what makes what a hidden achievement is, progress achievement, all that sort of stuff. And then the actual achievements file, where I did most of the work to make it work with mine, is where you make the achievements and have images corresponding to them, and then also the screens, the achievement screens. So if I go back into the game for a second here, if I pick achievement, so it like makes this, it makes that all work. I go back here. So see, it's a different, its own format. So you're defining, so it's a variable, and that -2 is so that it's on top of all the other ones. Uh, the name, the ID, the description, what image it has when it's unlocked, and I can hide the description, which you can either do true, as you can see here, or you can do not true and have actual text. So the hidden could just be, default. I think it's question marks when it's properly hidden. Well, yeah, it is question marks. I made it. It was something else when it's properly hidden, but then I changed it to question marks. And then, so it can be like true, which uses that default, or it can be this, or like your own text. There's a bunch of different stuff you can do in there. So see here, this one has a stat max. So this is a progress achievement. So it has 12 things that activate it. And then I showed a little bit how it's actually called in the code. So that's the achievement ID. So you call it with the $, and then you do dot, and this is a progress one. You add progress, and this up here is just for that persistent group. It's for things like and then I just want to show achievement properly being granted. There's probably none in there. I think there is here though. It's a lot to look through. Yeah, here. So you just do .grant for the normal achievements to grant them. Yeah, pretty simple. Just when you say it like that. So yeah, that's what this is. It was a lot of writing, a good amount of coding as well. And that was, we got to pick. So this was obviously a really fun one to do because I got to pick to do it. Kind of, went off. We had a week to do it, but I had other assignments that I had to do, so I ended up doing it in only a few days, but it was still really fun. Yeah, I'll show, see, go back. So here it's just, text. You use the default Ren'Py controls, which is clicking or spacebar to advance, a few other things as well. But then also, like I mentioned, on the advance, the second final, which is in this case advancing on this, I did exported it to Android, which the defaults on this are the basic Windows or basic PC stuff. So Windows, Linux, Mac, you don't really have to do any extra work to export those, but for Android you do, you have to generate the keys, you have to have Android stuff downloaded, that sort of thing. And so I decided to do this, like make an APK for it, because it's an Android course, you didn't have to, but that just made thematic sense to me. And it's the exact same except uh, for some reason, it might just come to me when I look, but see, you don't have preferences, which I guess is no. Wait, I got look. No, you do have preferences. You don't have help on the Android version, which is the default. That's Ren'Py doing that, and you don't have quit, which I guess makes sense. But other than that, it's literally the exact same. It's just on phone, and it works. I think it has to be 8p35. Maybe it'll go back a couple, but it's pretty solid in that. Oh, and also it doesn't have quick save, quick load. So that might be more of a software thing rather than it, not making sense to be on there. But yeah, that was it. Also, you're hearing the sound from this version. It works on here. It's just slow, this emulator. But yeah, that was a Moby final. They said it was a smaller one because didn't believe in really doing final being worth a lot. But yeah, other than that, not much else to say. So I think next I'm gonna go over my C assignments, which are with different teachers, so we don't have too many of those to go over. But C is not my favorite language to work with anyway, so you can count that as a good thing. Anyway, see you next time.